I get the feeling in our area here that we're being overrun by environmentalists. I wonder if you feel that the legislative bodies back there are being overrun by the demands of environmentalists. For example, in the last year or so, we've been told we can't go with motorized vehicles to retrieve a deer. You can't camp so far off of beaten roads. You know, just a lot of these things that are just really scary. It makes you feel like a criminal as soon as you leave the house.
And for some people, it doesn't just make them feel like a criminal. It turns them into criminals without just cause. When people fear the government, we call that tyranny. And when the government fears the people, we call that liberty. It certainly feels sometimes, especially with our land issue, like we're living more under tyranny than liberty, doesn't it? I mean, I think it's a big problem. There's a Scottish rock band called the Proclaimers. They have a song called Cap in Hand. And this chorus of the song says, "I can't understand why we let someone else rule our land." When I look at the map of San Juan County, I see that sea of red representing all of the federal land ownership, these tiny dots of white representing this novel concept of private land. It makes me a little scared, because when they own that land, when they claim to be the sole sovereign lawmaking authority with respect to that land, and then when they transfer authority, law enforcement authority and authority determining who gets to drill, who gets to mine, who gets to access with ATVs, over to unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats, that feels like tyranny to me. There's a lot that we need to do about that. There's a lot that we need to do to remind ourselves of the implicit promise made in our statehood enabling legislation passed by Congress in 1894, about 2 years in advance of our becoming a state in 1896. Section 9 of that legislation contained words to the effect that 5% of the proceeds of the sale of public lands found within the state's boundaries, which shall be sold subsequent to statehood, shall be held in trust for the state's public education system. Well, that sale never happened. In the meanwhile, we've got these hordes, these teams of federal law enforcement officers and land managers who, while well-intentioned, good people, hardworking people, are people who are not elected. And they're not accountable directly to anyone who is elected. And I think that's a problem. I am happy that the state, through legislation that it's recently passed, has helped to start this discussion about why it is that it's fair to make Utah hold all this public land, which supposedly benefits the entire country, but we make Utahns, including and especially residents of San Juan County, pay the very high price for all that public land.